for great minds to come together and discuss the issues at hand, even though we risk being called enemies of the state, even though we risk being labeled detractors and upstarts, and all the other labels that people want to give you when you choose to deal with truth, accountability, transparency, and you intend to hold people in high authority to account for their feelings and for not living up to the jobs that we have provided for them. But of course, you know how it is. You risk being called all things under the sun if you don't conform. But is this always the best way to be? In my opinion, no. It's not. It makes no sense, St. Lucia, for one to be silent in the face of grave injustice. Because the person you don't stand up for today, you just might be that person tomorrow, or somebody very, very close to you. So, I'm not asking you to go out there and be a troublemaker, but I'm asking you to stand up for what's right, for what is just. Now, I'm not the only one asking you to stand up for what's right and what is just. If you were fortunate enough to take in a little bit of the UWP press conference that aired this morning, it was simulcast on, it was streamed live on Fire FM, on the UWP Facebook page, on UTV, and on their YouTube channel, you would recognize that there are several individuals who understand what is going on in this country and who are not prepared to sit by and let it be business as usual. And of course, I'm talking about the fiery Mrs. Sarah Flood Bobre. And she made a statement, and I'm going to play it for you in a little while. She made a statement that gave me a kick in the gut, because she said she's been advocating, she's been talking for 29 years. And she said, I am tired of talking. The time for talk is over. It is now time for action. And I wholeheartedly agree, St. Lucia. But before I spoil the proceedings, let me take you back to this morning, to the UWP press conference, and let me let you hear for yourself. There were other contributors, of course, Mr. Titus Sprayville, I think, did a very good job. And so did, in my view, Mrs. Laura Japierre Noel. But Mrs. Beaubray really, in my opinion, she voiced everything that needed to be said. She said it, and she said it in a way that proved that we are not asleep in this country. No, we're not. We're not the only ones sitting here. The Prime Minister may say, oh, it's the talk shows and the talk shows, as if to say that the talk shows are inciting miscontent or malcontent in the country. But that is not the truth. Talk shows provide a medium for the people to express themselves. But here is a lady, formidable woman, Miss Sarah Flood, known to stand up, even when there's nobody else standing up behind her. She has been known to stand up, even if it cost her her job, even if she was the only one standing up, even if she came under fire from people on her side of the table. She stood up for what was right. She spoke out, or she speaks out for what is right. I admire this lady so much. I think she is a wonderful example for every woman in St. Lucia, women and girls. I can certainly tell you that being the lone voice to stand up against her own government, against her own prime minister, when she felt that her values were being forfeit if she went along with a certain law, I've been inspired by this lady since then. You know what I'm talking about. During a former Kenny Anthony administration, Mrs. Flood Beaubray was a minister for the SLP, an MP for the SLP. I think she was the MP for Central Castries at the time. And they were planning to pass this abortion law. And all of Kenny Anthony's ministers had stood up and agreed. And it was her turn. And she stood up and did something that none of the men had the tenacity to do. She stood up and said, no, I don't support this. As a Catholic, as a member of the Catholic Church, as a follower of the Catholic faith, this is wrong. Unprecedented. Because we all know that under Kenny Anthony, it was, if you're not with me, then you're against me. And Sarah Flood Beaubray stood up and stood her ground. A historic moment, a moment that made me sit up and take notice, just like what I'm about to show you. Listen carefully to Mrs. Beaubray's words, because I think that is what all of St. Lucia needs to hear, especially in this crime, unprecedented crime wave that we find ourselves, where all we hear from the powers that be is talk, talk, and more talk. all we see is inaction. There is no leadership. What we have is a lack thereof. Do we deserve this, St. Lucia? No, we don't. We do not. And it's time. It's time. We the people take a stance. So I take you now to Miss Sarah Flood Bowbray. Take a listen.
Good morning, everyone, members of the media, St. Lucians here and abroad, and everyone who has joined us today. My colleagues, Laura and Titus, have dealt with the topics in a very comprehensive way, and I want to thank them for setting the stage for what I will say. First of all, I would like to think that every person here present, every member of the media here, who I thank for coming, recognizes or is willing to accept that we have a serious crime problem in our country. I think at this point we can say it is a fact that we have a serious problem of crime in our country. I think we can also say that the current approaches are not working. I think we can also agree that that is a fact. And if we agree that both of these facts exist, that we have a serious problem, and that the current approaches aren't working, I think we can also agree that something differently needs to be done urgently. I think we can all agree on that as a country, that we have a serious crime problem and something different needs to be done urgently. It is a watershed moment for us, I think, and that we should take the opportunity to move forward in a decisive way. We are here because of the gruesome murder of a St. Lucian sister, Joy St. Thomas. But this morning, I read the family of Crystal St. Thomas' sobering reflection on what they had to endure in the justice system and what they are enduring now with news of the decrease in the sentence of the person who was convicted of her murder. And if that doesn't stir us to action, brothers and sisters of St. Lucia, then what will? Now, I made a suggestion, a recommendation for a commission of inquiry with regard to Joy St. Thomas, because there is so much information that we have, and we clearly can all see that she did everything that the system allowed her to do, or said that she ought to have done to protect herself, and yet the system itself failed her. So I'm hoping that members of the media, you will take that suggestion and make it your own. Let us all make it our own responsibility to see to it that we understand in a very particular and methodic way what the problems are in the system at every sector, at every part, at every level, and we also understand what needs to be done. And it's only a thorough, independent fact-finding, not fault-finding, commission of inquiry that will give us the answers we need. Now here, perhaps that would lean more to domestic violence. But we have a problem in the system as a whole. So even if we were to get recommendations on domestic violence particularly, those recommendations would still have to exist within a broken framework of the legal system, the judicial system, the justice system. So it behooves us also to overhaul the entire system. And what I would like to come here with, based on what my colleagues have said, is a recommendation, a clear way forward to the government that it might also consider to overhaul the entire system. I've made that recommendation before. It may have been thrown in the dustbin too, because we know recommendations have been thrown in the dustbin before. So I would like to make that recommendation, and I'm coming with it. But before that, I do want to pause and take the opportunity to congratulate the Honorable Prime Minister, who observed 29 years. 29 years of being a Member of Parliament. 23rd of May 1997, the Prime Minister was congratulated, and he acknowledged that he had served 29 years. I also marked 29 years of entering politics, and 29 years of talking, and 29 years of advocating. I'm tired of the talking. I am tired of the talking. It's time for action. And what I would like to suggest to the government, I've already made a suggestion on the Commission of Inquiry to look into how domestic violence is handled. On the question of crime as a whole, what I want to say is simple. There have been so many reports, so many commissions, so many consultations, so many recommendations. There have been so many memos that the police themselves have written, making suggestion after suggestion. Just coming here, persons who knew I was coming here sent me reams and reams of suggestions I should be making to the government as to how to handle crime. You go on social media, you go on Facebook, you listen to the most monitored talk show, and so many suggestions are coming through. What I would like to suggest to the Prime Minister, who has now been in office for 6 years as Prime Minister, at least, 6 years at the helm, take all of these reports, dust them off the shelf, comb social media, go through all the recommendations you've heard on Newsspin, go through all the memos that the police hierarchy and the police officers and the public servants have made, all the recommendations you've heard when you've gone overseas and sat at these meetings that have been spoken about crime, and put some people in a room, serve them tea, coffee, food for a whole week if you have to. Allow them to comb all these recommendations. We will find all the answers there. We will find the answers there. There is nothing that needs to be recommended that has not yet been recommended in some forum. Find them, collate them, come up with a master plan, then get some experts in all aspects of crime, criminology, and whatever have you, and get them now to look at that master plan and come up with a blueprint for the way forward. That's what.
There you heard it, folks. The formidable Sarah Flood Bobre. Time for action. No more time for talk. And don't ask people to help you, because everyone has helped. Everyone has said everything. There's nothing that needs to be said that has not been said. You've heard it on social media. You've heard it in meetings. You've heard it in workshops, in forums. You've heard it on, yes, the same talk shows that you want to blast. You've heard it. Get it together. Go back through the dustbin of recommendations and suggestions that you threw away. You threw them out. You called them no new ideas. Go back, pick them up, dust them off, and have your experts look through them in order for us to chart the way forward. And I think this is good advice, guys. I think this is great advice. But let's hear the rest of this presentation. But I wanted you to hear this. We're tired of talk. I hope the Prime Minister is listening.
What it is? That's what it is. This is a way to start today. And that's what the Prime Minister needs to do. Now, what is a plan without political will to implement it? You can have the best plan in the world. I'm sure there have been plans that have been written up. It's been sitting on a shelf. So we need to ensure that we have a plan. I've suggested how we can do this in a practical way. And then let's make sure that we have a government with which is capable and has the political will to do it. So here it is. I've made a suggestion to deal with the domestic violence issue and to overhaul the whole system. We can start with that. I want to just pick up on something that Titus said. And he spoke about our faith and belief in God. I think we are a Christian nation. We are a Christian nation. We say it all the time. Our Constitution acknowledges the supremacy of the Almighty God. The preamble to our Constitution, the highest law of the land, acknowledges the supremacy of the Almighty God. So I'm not speaking out of turn when I bring faith into the equation here. And I'm doing this because we will not solve crime unless we ourselves take personal responsibility for our actions, and unless each one of us says, I want to be a better person. Most of us will do good because of our faith. We will try to do good because of our faith. It's our faith which makes us want to do good. It is that soul in us that God himself has put there that gives us a conscience to care about people and to want to do the right thing, to want to be better. So each one of us needs to take personal responsibility in as much as we asking the government to lead the way. So there's a practical element that the government needs to do, but each one of us needs to take personal responsibility. I said I've been speaking for 29 years, advocating for this and advocating for that. And to be honest with you, members of the media and persons listening here, I would not come to a press conference and not say exactly what's on my mind. Not at this stage of the game. Not in these times when things are so critical, when we need to dig deep and say it as it is. I couldn't come here and gloss over anything. I couldn't do it. And what I want to say is, and I want you to quote me correctly on this. When you're doing your press release, say that I spoke about faith and God, but also say that I spoke about doing the practical things. Because sometimes once we branch into faith, some people say, oh, you expect God, you expect to sit down, do nothing, and God will help. We're not saying that. We're saying we have to do all that is possible. Do the work. But let's remember that it is God that gives us the grace to do it properly, do it right, and we get results from it. I do want to say that I firmly believe that there is a supernatural element to all what's happening in St. Lucia. I have to say it. Evil is taking over or has taken over this land. There's no doubt about it. Evil is taking over or has taken over this land. The crimes, the extent of them, the magnitude of them, they have a supernatural explanation. And it is time for our hearts to be turned back to God. We can do everything practically that we ought to be doing, as I've suggested, and our hearts are not turned towards God individually, no good is going to come out of it. And I don't need anybody's permission for me to say what I just said. Everything has been tried, but we like to keep God in his corner. When we're ready, we say the opening prayer and say, oh God, we start every parliament with prayer. It's on the order paper. You can't start the parliament proceedings without prayer. And then we push God aside. We have to give this nation back to God. If we don't do that, each one of us, personally, by digging back deep into our faith and into the soul that God gave each one of us, this is where he speaks to us. This is where we understand and we make decisions. Before we act things out, we agree them or we decide them in our heart. And that is where the crime is, in our heart. And a lot of us, our hearts have become cold. We are not doing the crime, we may not be doing it, but we become indifferent to it. It doesn't bother us anymore. It doesn't bother us anymore. We quickly forget. And so, just to recap what I've said, I'm calling again for all of us to do what we need to do to impress upon the government that we need the matter of Joyce Sentoma thoroughly investigated. It's not about party, it's not about anything but we need to know what went wrong so we can take steps to make sure it never happens again. We need to do that. And then the whole criminal justice system is not working. If it was working, we wouldn't have all this crime on our streets. If it was working, Crystal St. Thomas' family wouldn't have given that sobering reflection I read today. So that we need to have a master plan, and all the recommendations have been made. Pull them out, create a blueprint, put the resources there, political will, let's get it done. And then we take personal responsibility. Evil is rampant in the place, and only one person can deal with it. Jesus himself, God made man. And we need to turn to him and submit all of our plans, all of our actions, all of our ideas, so that they can bear fruit. Because guess what? Psalm 127, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain that build it. Thank you very much.
So, what do we take from our formidable lawmaker. Well, let's not say lawmaker, officer of the court. Because, of course, you know that Mrs. Flood Bobre is a attorney. Everything she said feels as if it was targeted to your heart, doesn't it? Everything she said touched you in some way. Why? Because it is the absolute truth. All recommendations that need to be made, that could be made, have been made. Not just anywhere, not just to the Prime Minister's office, not just to the Commissioner of Police, not just by the public, not just by the policymakers, not just by the law enforcement professionals, by everyone. Everyone, civil society, has said that they believe crime is a byproduct of poverty. The citizens for, what are they called? Citizens or for peace and prosperity, yes. They went out and they started to fund social interventions. They wanted to build safe spaces. They came up with 5 or 7 pillars where they would tackle socially to get at the root cause of crime. The police have been working since time immemorial to get guns off the street, to get criminals behind bars, to ensure that citizens remain safe. Do they always succeed? No. But they don't always fail either. And you hear the reports. The Guns, Narcotics and Firearms Unit, they are working to dismantle criminal organizations throughout the island. We have the Marine Unit out there on the seas patrolling, attempting to intercept the entry of guns, drugs, and illicit substances, even human trafficking, from entering our borders. And they too have made suggestions. In fact, the Commissioner of Police is known to provide, according to the Prime Minister, data-driven policy suggestions, which, by the way, we have not heard the Prime Minister speak about, expound upon, or even try to implement in any way. And he is the Minister of National Security. Then we have the politicians like Mrs. Flood Bobre, who have advocated, who've stood up. We have former Prime Minister Alan Shastney and his team, who came up with a proposal that crime be treated as a pandemic. So put in place all of the measures that enabled us to control and mitigate the COVID-19 pandemic, a suggestion which the Prime Minister openly said he threw in the trash. His words, not mine. Then we have persons, members of the public, who've given suggestions. Teachers, lawyers, judges, advocates. We have international organizations like USAID who've come to St. Lucia and put in place crime prevention programs with the youth. They had the Wiry program. They had another one, I can't remember the name right now. All in an attempt to curtail crime on this island. And the Prime Minister is still saying he does not know what to do. I don't understand, guys. The Prime Minister, as the Minister of National Security, and by the way, you would recall that Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre served, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me correctly, the Prime Minister served a stint as the CARICOM, how do they call it? There's a name for it. The person in charge, I need to remember the name, guys. There's a special name that they give these leaders with the responsibility. But anyway, the gist of it is the Prime Minister served as the person in charge of national security for CARICOM. So I'm pretty sure that he got a chance to liaise with impacts and RSS and all those other regional bodies. He's gotten a chance to sit in meetings with ministers of national security throughout the region and gotten a glimpse of what these other ministers are doing in their own specific territories to mitigate, curtail, and overall control crime. So the suggestions, I agree with Mrs. Flood Bobre, have been made. All the Prime Minister needs to do is to go back through his trash, pick up the proposals. I'm sure there are proposals on law enforcement, proposals on evolving laws, that's the judiciary, proposals on security measures, everything. Get a team together and get it done. But you know why? And this is another point that Mrs. Bobre made. Do you know why I believe that St. Lucia is in the grip of this never-ending crime uptick? Because we lack, not all of us. I'm pretty sure that many of us in the public sphere, we have the will. But the Prime Minister himself, in every speech, in every address, in every pre-cabinet press briefing, in every moment where he has spoken about crime, has proven to the people of St. Lucia that he does not have the political will to get the job done. And if you don't believe me, or if you wonder why I would make such a statement, I refer you to every single statement the Prime Minister has made concerning crime, since he entered office in 2026. Sorry, in 2021. Why do I say since he entered office? Because in 2016, from 2016 all the way down to early 2021, the Prime Minister had all the answers. The Prime Minister knew what had to be done to fix COVID, to fix tourism, to fix education, to fix infrastructure, and most of all, to curtail crime. I don't know what happened after the election, and I don't venture to speculate. But once Philip J. Pierre was sworn in as Prime Minister, he seems to have miraculously forgotten all of the political will that he had to make things better. Before the 2021 elections, Philip J. Pierre held himself up as the 6-star general. His words, guys, not mine. As the most readied Prime Minister, his words again, the most readied Prime Minister, in his own words, more readied than Kenny Anthony, than John Compton, than Stephenson King, and definitely more readied than Alan Shastney. He had all the answers. He didn't need any suggestions. He was going to get into office. He was going to grab crime by the scuff and wrestle it into submission and lock it up in a cage where we would be safe. He was going to grab the economy by the bootstraps and raise it up to unprecedented levels. He was going to make St. Lucia great again. I'm just realizing that he has done none of that. I don't know what happened between the time he was announced as the new Prime Minister in 2021 and the time when he entered I don't know if his office is an oval office. Maybe it's a square office. I've never been to his inner office. But ever since he entered the cabinet, ever since he entered the parliament and sat around the round table, Philip J. Pierre has lost the political will to make anything better in St. Lucia. And we are the ones, we the people, we the electorate, we the people who look to him for guidance, protection, security, we are the ones paying the price. So, do I endorse Mrs. Bobre's message that the time for talk is done and it is now time for action? You bet I do. You bet I do. It is time that the electorate, and I really wish, guys, I really wish that there was a way for St. Lucians to stop paying the 2.5% health and security levy. Because to me, that would be the greatest protest we could ever mount. We don't need to take to the streets. We just need to stop paying it. But then how do we do that? How do we do that? Philip Pierre has cleverly integrated that punishing tax into everything that we do. Goods services, everything. So it doesn't matter what we do, we pay a levy for a service that we are not receiving. We're not receiving proper health care, universal health care. No matter how many buses they wrap with the message, no matter how many billboards they put by the side of the road, universal health care is a joke. I went to the hospital and we were charged separately for an x-ray. And by the way, guys, do you know that NIC does not cover blood tests and, well, I don't know for blood tests and x-rays if you're not admitted at the hospital? Food for thought. So you can't say, I have NIC, I can charge it to them. No. You have to pay out of pocket. You have to pay out of pocket. And universal health care doesn't cover that. And the most the Prime Minister can say to us, because you know he likes to tell us, he's given the police this and he's given the police that. Do you know what he's touting now? He bought them belts. Belts, St. Lucia. He said the police were wearing their uniforms without proper belts. So he bought them a shipment of belts. I'm sorry, Mr. Prime Minister, are you expecting the police officers to whip the criminals into submission? Give them a spanking? It is laughable how we've gone from the 2016-2021 term where everyone was talking about Alan Shastney trying to make St. Lucia into Miami and finding a problem with everything that was done. They had a problem with us building a new hospital. There was a problem with us building a new airport. There was a problem with us attempting to redevelop the South. There was a problem with introducing horse racing into St. Lucia. There was even a problem, guys. Get this. There was a problem with bringing in an AI coding company to teach our youth new technical skills that could kickstart a whole new industry in St. Lucia. There was a problem with too many roads being rehabilitated in the country. Y'all remember? Moun paka manje chime. That was the UN cry. All the Prime Minister is doing is fixing roads. Moun paka manje chime. And today, we have a Prime Minister who is touting about giving the police belts. We'll take a quick commercial break at this point and we will be right back with more on the discussion of the state of the country. Stay tuned.
You already know the power of mixed products for your clothes and household. You mix your whites and colored clothes, leaving them fresh and scented. You mix your dishes and left your hands protected with vitamin E. You mix your floors, even mix your toilet. Now we expand and bring you 3 new scents in our fabric softener. Balmy Sunshine, Summer Sunshine, and Thousand Flowers. And rinse those stains off of colored clothes with mixed chemicals bleach. Mix whites even further with Bondican Honey Soap Bars with deodorant and antibacterial. So let's turn this bad bacteria out and refresh your tired body. Your product's giving you licks? Then choose Licks from Today Distribution Inc. Available at all leading supermarkets.
Looking for a new way to enjoy your ocean vacation? Book a tailor-made tour with Sea Breeze Adventures. Explore the island's untouched natural beauty as you visit hidden coves and beaches along the coastline with any caravan, whale, or crafty excursions. We offer a variety of adventure opportunities, including sport fishing, sunset cruises, island adventures, whale and dolphin watching, and supported taxi service. To book, contact Captain Warren at telephone number 1758-713-3196. Seabreeze Adventures, not just a tour, but an adventure.
Yeah. Good afternoon, guys. You're listening to Hardtalk here on Fire 107.7 FM. And as I was saying, have our problems changed in this country? Let's take a gander at the Facebook platform. And guys, if you want to contribute to the discussion, you can always hop on our Facebook platform and send us a message on the live stream, or you can visit our WhatsApp platform and send us a message there. It's the same as our phone number, 572-3473, and also that is the phone number to call if you want to give a contribution live on air. So don't forget it. Hop on our WhatsApp platform, 572-3473. Let's look at the Facebook platform. Somebody says it's more than time to take to the streets, Lucelek, Wasco, and for many, many more. Somebody says to Sarah Flood, amen. Another says, if he can't find the solutions, hire Mrs. Flood. It's actually Mrs. Bobra. Flood is her maiden name. Giving all necessary powers to pinpoint the suggestions. Secondly, implement the solution at all costs for the citizenry's safety, and excluding all political individual choices. The praise will still be yours, Prime Minister, for doing the right thing. Don't throw the proposals in the bin, because now they are in Dayglow, ready to burn. By the way, I think Dayglow burned for days, and that fire may just have been started by all of these proposals. Somebody says, hallelujah, amen to that. Of course, they were speaking on Mrs. Bobra's presentation. Another says, true, our country was being sold to the devil. The devil came to steal, kill, and destroy. Another is saying here, if God's people would humble themselves and pray and seek God's face, then he will hear from heaven and heal our land. This is where we individually have to cry out, including the government. Then God will intervene whilst we change our laws. Another individual is saying, amen. Without God, we are nothing in this world. Somebody is suggesting something, says, I firmly believe that some of the killings are blood sacrificing. When persons in power sleep on the dark side, the devil usually comes back for its payment. And guess what it loves? Blood. People are looking for all kinds of suggestions for this depravity that has gripped our society. But I don't think that it is simply I don't think the root causes of crime, guys, is as simple as it used to be. It used to be that people were forced to commit crimes due to poverty. So persons were forced into a life of robbery and burglary in order to feed their families, or in order to feed some habit that they had. Remember, back in the 60s and 70s, we had a serious drug problem on island, and that drug problem has not gone away. It's simply evolved. People can hide now. But guys, now I'm not so sure that poverty is the root cause of crime. It may be one, but I think popular culture has romanticized wrongdoing. I firmly believe that music videos, I mean, when I was younger, the teachers would try to stop us from boarding the buses with the loud music. The police would try to sanction and control the amount of speakers and the setup that bus drivers had on their vehicles. And I think maybe they still do, because you don't really hear these buses with those boom boxes on them anymore playing loud music like they used to back in the 80s and the 90s. Mostly the 90s. The police have all but scrubbed this out, but now we see individuals with those huge speakers on the top of their vehicles and causing serious noise pollution. And back then it was dub music and dancehall music. You know, artists like Beanie Man and Bounty Killer and, you know, Terra Fabulous and Buju Banton and some of the greats. And these were the ones that we loved to listen to. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, dancehall is still my favorite genre. I still love dub music. I will still bust a wine when I hear poor people fed up. And I still know all the words to Gangsta Purple. That doesn't mean I'm going to be out there committing crime. But it has just changed, guys. When you listen to the lyrics that our kids listen to now, people like Cardi B, what example or what message is carried in her music? And you see the way that American pop culture has infiltrated our children's minds, movies, series. Did you notice that you cannot watch any kind of movie or series if there is not some gay scene painted into it, even when they remake all of the old movies that we know and love? There's always some aspect of LGBTQ and whatever all of those alphabets I don't know anything about. All the consonants. Then you see the videos displaying guns, displaying riches, and making it seem as if the fast track to get out of poverty and to get what you want is criminal activity. That I think that has romanticized crime. And our young people who have seen their parents struggle and still not be able to afford to make ends meet, they are seeing this and they are believing it, not realizing that it's simply fantasy. It's just a movie, it's make-believe. I was so shocked and surprised to hear that one of the gangster rappers, I don't remember the guy's name, but this guy is very well educated, a genius, has several degrees, and is an entrepreneur, but is singing this music because that is what he thinks the youth will respond to. A very intelligent individual. The youth no longer look up to people like Rihanna, who started singing and then took her money and invested it into Fenty Beauty and all of these other things. They don't look up to Julian Alfred. And I read somewhere that Julian Alfred is not being promoted like the other sprinters because she does everything right. She's a goody two-shoes. She is an example of black excellence. And so she's being sidelined. So you don't really hear much about her until you see her on the track. And I'm beginning to believe that this is true. But that's something to think about. So let's go back to the Facebook platform. Somebody says, and everything she says is the gospel truth. That's true. Another person says, not one question from the media, shaking my head. Well, if you had listened to the entirety of the program, I don't think there was anything else that needed to be said. Laura Jean-Pierre Noel, she presented a very powerful, passionate plea for change. Then you had Mr. Titus Brayville, who spoke all about the, again, socioeconomic impact of crime. And then Mrs. Bobra came in with this powerful presentation. So I don't think there was anything the media needed to ask because it was all said. Somebody says, I told you long time ago, the country is sold to the devil. The hacks don't want to admit it. Somebody says, true, the blood that is flowing is because that's the payment. Somebody else is weighing in. The biggest criminal organization in the island is the St. Lucia government. Let's start there. Somebody says the day of nomination, that big-headed abuser had a thing dressed like the devil walking in castries. Nobody said a thing, not even the churches. So yes, evil is definitely taking over the country. Somebody says here, happy eve of the weekend to you, Angie, and all my fellow hard talkers. Angie, I know that you are keeping it uninformed, but I just want to remind you that uniformed, the one who is now in position of PM, entitled Mashing Up Security. Somebody says, how can you speak against crime when you use people who break the laws to get into power, and upon getting into power, dropped all the charges against them? And I will forever say that. Thanks for the reminder. And I'll go back to what I was saying earlier. Earlier I was saying about how the Prime Minister behaved before he entered office in 2021. You would recall, during the 2016 to 2021 term, Philip J. Pierre had all the answers, like I said before. He was going to fix crime. He was going to fix tourism. He was going to bring back agriculture. He was going to make St. Lucia great again. And again, I will repeat, I don't know what happened, guys. I don't know what happened between the day he decided, he got the announcement that he won, and the day he was sworn in. But along that timeline, something changed, because when Philip J. Pierre entered office, the first thing he did was to give the criminals a clear and concise message that he was their friend. How did he do that? He expunged the criminal records of everyone who the police had worked so hard to arrest for breaking the COVID-19 laws. Laws that, by the way, were necessary to keep our country disease-free and to protect lives and livelihoods at the time. Secondly, The Prime Minister, after expunging those records, he decriminalized marijuana. And I have a caller who always says that everywhere you look in castries, you see guys with their hands cupped and a scissors, and I've seen it. Smoking in public indiscriminately, on bus stops, in the boulevard, everywhere. And it's not just young people doing it. You would think it was the young boys who didn't know better. No, you see older people doing it as well. Smoking in public. Now, mind you, you would hardly go around St. Lucia and find anyone smoking a cigarette in public if that person were not a foreigner. And if you don't believe me, check it for yourself. You would not find any St. Lucian standing in the boulevard, standing on a street corner, standing anywhere. You might find them in a bar, on a block, but you will not find any St. Lucian standing on any street corner smoking a cigarette. But you will find them everywhere around Castries, by the square, everywhere, in public, right in the open, on bus stops, in restaurants, smoking marijuana. It's a sorry, sad, shameful state of affairs, isn't it? My, how our problems have changed in this country. Somebody says, how can we stop paying it, Angie? I would be the first to stop paying. I don't think so. You'll be the second because I will stop paying it first. Somebody says, I saw with my own eyes in Castries Central, they made a box for Rush and Stanley Felix after the elections, sent flowers, and actually sent gasoline and burned the box into flames. If this is not considered evil, then don't know what else is. Somebody says here, yes, he has been more desperate to be in the position of Prime Minister, but as it turned out, he is mashing up security. He is titled Peace Missing PM. He is obviously a crime minister and possibly crime minister, truth spinner. He is also practicing the bling and confusing act every time he is being asked the important questions, and the list goes on. Somebody is reminding me, up to now, Angie, no hospital. Speaking of the hospital, do you recall when he was in opposition? What did he say to us? He said, within 1 year of his term, 1 year, he will give us a fully commissioned St. Jude Hospital. It's been 6 years, guys. And you know what he's given us? A building. A building. Let that sink in. Somebody says, I'm not feeling so bad for none of them. The mood is red. Another says, true, they voted for that. Somebody says, PJP must do St. Lucia a big favor and step down. But do you really think he will step down? Because he has told us over and over that he's the most readied. Somebody says, Angie, the belt is to beat. Be nice, guys, be nice. I can't read that on air, but apparently the belt that the police officers got is to administer official spankings. It's the nicest way I can put it. Somebody says that government officials bring them on island or allow them to come on island for concerts. Yeah, they allow these people to come for concerts. Somebody says they come for opening of jazz, the illicit lyrics, the nudity and obscenity. We have a caller on the line. Our opening batsman this afternoon. Good afternoon, caller. You are on the air.
Good afternoon, Angie. How are you? And good afternoon to your listeners.
I'm good, caller. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Angie, I will allow you. I sent you a song. It's very apt by Black Rose for season. If your permission, I'd like you to play it and then I'll call back. I want to set the stage for what I'm about to say.
Is this a new release?
It's a new release from Blackpool,
Mm.
and it pertains to our situation in Wasco. So when you finish playing the song, I will, if you permit me, I'll venture to call back.
Well, you have the floor, caller. Go ahead and see what you have to say.
No, I want to set a good stage, so I'll call back. When you play the song, I'll call back. I know why. I'm setting a good stage there.
All right. Okay. Well,
Thank you. I'll call back.
you're welcome. Somebody wants to hear some calypso. But we're still on the matter of crime. We'll take on Wasco in a minute because these things are important and they seem to be correlated. And we'll get to that in a minute. Somebody says evildoers running St. Lucia, poor Helen. Another says smoke zones are to be implemented. But you see, that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to point out. We didn't need smoke zones because everyone understood that smoking in public was unacceptable. I'm just trying to point out how the Prime Minister, with his actions, and maybe he didn't realize that this would have been the reaction of the public. But it seems to me that all of these characters have crawled out of the woodwork. They've become very bold because the Prime Minister has given them an avenue to indulge in something that has been strictly restricted and controlled and curtailed in St. Lucia since the 60s and 70s. And I really want to hear right now for persons who live in the diaspora, in places where marijuana is legal, because there are some places where marijuana is legal for medicinal use. Do you see people smoking in public in this manner? Somebody says, by the way, I want to know, is it true that patients at St. Jude Hospital in the stadium are having to shower outside the hospital and there are no pillows or bed sheets? This is a question for the Minister of Health. And I am very interested in that answer as well. Hopefully, the Minister is listening and he can probably give us some clarity. Somebody said, Auntie Emma gave us a date for the opening. Up until now, I am still waiting. I'm waiting right along with you, caller. So, like I said before, how our problems have changed in St. Lucia. We went from having an administration who did too much. They wanted to build a hospital that was too modern. They wanted to build an airport that was too big. Their road rehabilitation project was too ambitious. St. Lucia was not ready for this kind of critical advancement. That was our problem back in 2016, while the world was contending. Back between 2016 and 2021, that was our problem. Too much development, too quickly, and too big. That was our problem. Today, our problems are rising crime. Today, our problems are not enough resources for our police officers to do their jobs properly. Today, our problem is inadequate health care. Today, our problem is too much crime. Look at what we've given up and what we have Look at what we've given up and what we have gotten in return. I want you guys to think and put this in perspective, St. Lucia. Way too modern devices for our children at school. That was our problem. That was our problem, you know. While the rest of the world was grappling with hundreds, thousands of dead due to the COVID-19 pandemic, St. Lucians were upset because we were developing too fast. In that vein, I can understand why some people say that they don't feel sorry for what is going on right now. But just picture it. We went from moun pa ka manje chimè to pani pièce chimè. We went from the hospital building looks like a box to having no hospital. We went from police being too out and about to having police being shot at in the streets. We went from devices versus schools to fighting in the schools. Sorry, devices versus books. To fighting and gang activity in our schools. I just saw a video. It looked like that video was shot in a classroom in one of the secondary schools in St. Lucia, and I was shown that video by my 12-year-old nephew. And in that video, it's a video of a classroom. There's a teacher in the classroom, but a bunch of boys are fighting. Several of them are attacking this one bigger boy. And this boy is not going down without a fight. And so chairs were being thrown at him. Desks were being thrown at him. Several boys were swarming him at the same time, and the teacher can be heard screaming, "Stop that, stop that, stop that." But they're not stopping. And this boy is not going down. He is taking on every lash of swatting away every chair, swatting away the desks that are thrown at him, and defending himself valiantly from a swarm of boys, while a teacher is standing there helplessly yelling at the boys to stop. It looks as if it was shot in one of our secondary schools, but I am praying that this is something that happened in another school somewhere else. But if it is proven that this happened in St. Lucia, I would not be surprised. St. Lucia, do you realize that we went in a space of 6 years from having a full-on revolt every time we hear of a murder or a gunshot or gunfire, to not even noticing, not even acknowledging people dead in the street? You realize that? We are desensitized to the crime. My, how our problems have changed in this country. My, how the mighty have fallen. Let's go back to the Facebook platform. Somebody here is saying, can't smoke near schools, churches, bars, and public transportation and federal areas. I guess these are the the things that are happening in the diaspora. Not in St. Lucia. I'm telling you, these guys smoke right on the bus stop, and they blow the smoke at persons waiting for the bus. Somebody says we went from having a great prime minister to a clown now. Another says, by the way, have they caught the guy who shot at the police? That I don't know. But I'm hoping, because the police held a press conference recently, and I'm hoping that that information will come out. Somebody says a mold-infested building sitting vacant to be commissioned. Are you kidding me? Well, they refuse to allow the press free access to go into that building, that hospital building, and see what's going on. But we have a call on the line. Good afternoon to you, caller. You are on the air.
How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I am there. I'm there, living, trying to live a good life. Voila. Listen, let me tell you something. Some people believe they will do the wickedness, and then when it coming back to haunt them, or they sow bad seed, they want, when it coming back to give them what will I say, a garden with bad seeds, they cannot take it. I will tell you why I will say that. Alan Shastri was doing his best for the country. As you said, he had to build a hospital. He started building the hospital, the airports, the roads, and everything. Like John Compton, the Labours couldn't dare to see Alan doing that. His name will stay. His handprints will stay. So what they did to Alan, what they did to John Compton, the only thing, John Compton had the people who stood with him, and he did not everything, but he did things to change St. Lucia. But Alan is different, because what they did, they had people now. Philip J. don't to hear about Facebook Live, all that. It's against him, and that's what helped him. It was good in his time when he was in opposition. They lied. It was nice for him. Now you sow bad seeds and you think you will get good seeds. Now it's against him. People not even speaking like they used to speak against Alan, and he still cannot bear it. He's saying, you spin this, spin that. So why you believe if you sow bad seed, you will reap good seeds? That's why he's trying to do his best, as you said, making people smoke in public, and doing all kind of things that shouldn't be, just for people to like him, for him to the victory, to how they say that,
protect the victory.
Protect the victory. Things he's not standing. That's why they are deaf in St. Lucia. He cannot put his foot down to say stop. You understand? Because he don't, like Alan will say wrong is wrong. Philip J. Pierre cannot do that. He haven't got a backbone to do that. He knows the people that is supporting him.
Yeah.
People who want bad for, no, I won't say bad, but people that against the law. People that was against Alan trying to do things for the country. They went on his side. You understand? The man that was bomb scare, they are there.
Yeah.
They didn't want Richard with United Workers' Party. He's with them now. All people that was on the wrong side of the law and prevented Alan from going forward, he took them on his side, and they are the ones defending him. You understand? So where will we go from here? Where is the truth? Where is the honesty? How can St. Lucia go better when there's a prime minister who cannot say this is wrong and this is right? Tell me, Angie, I'm listening to you. How can we go from here?
I don't know.
With that?
Well, we need a new prime minister. We need a change because I'm just putting it in perspective, caller.
Yes.
Do you recall we went from saying that saying that they were spending too much money desilting the dam to now
Yes.
not having water for months in our pipes?
Yes. Yes.
Look at how our problems have changed. We went from a prime minister that was working too much to a prime minister that refuses to work at all.
Yes. But he knows how.
I
He
want
knows
to
how
know.
he will get the people. He knows how. You understand?
I want to know
I don't.
the people who were advocating for labor. How do they feel now? That's what I want to know. How do you feel now? How do you feel?
I don't.
Those that were screaming, "Moun pa ka manje chimé."
Yes, and that's what helped them.
Chimé pa ka manje yo actuellement.
Chimé, nothing else but chimé. Yeah, the same chimé. They didn't want. So these people, it's not what Alan was doing that was wrong. They didn't want his fingerprints to stay, his handprints to stay in St. Lucia doing good, because they're trying to speak about John Compton. The man they was against, he couldn't do anything. Now they have him there, he's the God. Well, it's the same thing with Alan. You understand? Because I believe if Alan were to go to the Labour Party, he would be the best.
The best thing since sliced bread.
The best, voila. So what they're doing, let us destroy him. Let us prevent him from doing what he's trying to do for the country, because his legacy will linger. And paying people they know what Alan is doing right. They paying them to help Philip J. Pierre and his surrogates and everything to pretend that they don't know what Alan was doing. It was for St. Lucia and for us. So we are there. I don't know where we will go, how long the people will open their eyes to see that these are just tricks. Now you don't see him, he cannot speak, he cannot defend himself. Before the reporters ask him a question, he cannot let them finish. You know why?
Yeah.
Because he knows what he's doing. It's not right for the country, so he is afraid of the truth. So before you open your mouth to ask him questions, that's why he chose a little group of reporters that he'll put words in them before he'll make them laugh. And life goes on like that while people are just suffering. Where is the hospital? Where is the hospital? And you just have to wash it, and it would be the people cannot open their eyes to.
I am looking for the hospital too. If you know where to find it, let me know. The two of us will go and look for it together.
If you don't know how, they said they handled the building. You see how these people have tricks? They handle a building.
He said he promised a building. That's what he said, and he has delivered.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. So that's how we will be as life goes on. That's what they will do. Have people to who knows the right, but they're paying them to say contrary for the gain. When they do that, they will stay in power. They will be able to feed their family, to get I won't say rich, but they will be able. And the little man will just get the little, the little food that falls from
scraps
from the table, and they're happy about that. until they are no more. When they are no more, because most of these people, most of them are grown-ups who cannot do nothing for themselves.
Yeah.
They're just there waiting so they'll get a little scrap and life will go on like that. So we want the youth. The youth that's coming up, we want them to open their eyes and see that's what Philip JP and his government and his supporters, what they're doing for is just a field. The grass is green, but when you put your foot there, you're just going down a road. And that's what that happened in St. Lucia. I don't know how long it will continue. Maybe I won't be there, but I hope the youth will open their eyes to see these people are just there for their family and their friends. That's
Thank
what I
you
have
for
to
that,
say.
caller.
For now, my
Very
friend,
well
I don't like to
said.
stay too long.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
well said. Thank
I'm
you for that.
listening. And bye. Yeah.
Take a quick commercial break, guys, and we will be right back.
You already know the power of Licks products on your clothes and household. You Licks your whites and colored clothes, leaving them fresh and scented. You Licks your dishes and left your hands protected with vitamin E. You Licks your floors, even Licks your toilet. Now we expand and bring you 3 new scents in our fabric softener: Balmy Sunshine, Summer Sunshine, and Thousand Flowers. And Licks those stains off of colored clothes with Licks Color Scent Bleach. Licks went even further with Body Care Body Soap Bars in deodorant and antibacterial. So Licks tiredness and bacteria out and refresh your tired body. Your products giving you Licks? Then choose Licks from Today Distribution Inc. Available at all leading supermarkets.
Looking for a new way to enjoy your St. Lucia vacation? Book a tailor-made tour with Seabreeze Adventures. Explore the island's untouched natural beauty as you visit hidden coves and beaches along the coastline with any one-of-our whole or half-day excursions. We offer a variety of adventure opportunities, including sport fishing, sunset cruises, island adventures, whale and dolphin watching, and supported taxi service. To book, contact Captain Warren at a telephone number 1758 713 3196. Seabreeze Adventures, not just a tour, but an adventure.
It is 3:44 p.m. here on Fire 107.7 FM, and you're listening to Hard Talk. Now, somebody was saying, and let me just read. Before I continue, let me just read some of the messages on the Facebook platform. Somebody says, I listened to a lady on Newspin today talk about the bad treatment she got from the police in the Mikud police station. And listening to her, I wasn't there because I'm overseas, but knowing what I have seen of witnesses while I was an auxiliary fire volunteer, and I used to move around with the policemen on and witness what he has done to people, I could see what she was saying. It's true. Some of the policemen are very wicked, and this is why I can say our government at once had to pay the Canadian government a lump sum of money, because I was a witness in that case and I spoke the truth, exactly what the lady said today on Newspin, exactly what happened at the time. Wow, I don't know much about these details. Somebody else is saying, can you imagine what St. Lucia would look like if Mr. Chasney was the one in office for the past 6 years? Yeah, I can. Not what it looks like now. Somebody's saying to me, wear your glasses. I don't even have them right now. Somebody says, caller, Alan is a threat to them. Somebody says, true. Another one says, my lady, you are saying the truth. Well, there is a good God, and the people are seeing and suffering right now. It is a lesson the Almighty Father is showing to the nation right now. When you listen to lies and deceit, you got to suffer for a period of time. I don't want to suffer, guys. I don't want to suffer. Somebody says, caller, you are on point. That's SLP for you. Another says, Angie, I heard PJP observed his attitude at the briefing this week. Can a reporter say to PJP that he and his party members, as well as their senators, spread misinformation, disinformation, mistruths, and everything other than the truth while at the briefing? Well, not if that reporter wants to be allowed in another briefing. Let me tell you, these people are looking for every reason to the Prime Minister made a statement some time ago. And it was a statement to the effect that it was basically a veiled threat to the media. He said, and I quote, and both him and the Deputy Prime Minister said this, that they did not want to be the ones to tell people what to say, but they were basically threatening the media with that 361 law that Kenny Anthony tried to implement back in his first term. And so they have their subtle ways of keeping the media. You heard the Deputy Prime Minister talk about legitimate media and illegitimate media. Somebody says there's no insulin on the island, God help us. Wow. Somebody says, take it from me, first term, they survived on CIP funds. Now they got scrutinized. They are about to be bankrupt because they didn't create any sustainable jobs and no economical skills besides a fat economy. Well, that is what we are going to face, and I hope the people who enabled this are ready. Somebody says, Angie, this marijuana industry is $1 billion investment. Wouldn't it be better if this government had used this opportunity to create for medical purposes to export to international markets? That would generate foreign revenue to the country. I guess they would rather see the young men waste their lives away. So sad to have a country being governed in that type of manner. It is heartbreaking. Guys, I recall quite succinctly that there was a gentleman called Andrew DeCaris who was advocating for the legalization of marijuana for medicinal purposes and to use hemp to make rope and all of these other things. And this man was used by the SLP administration in 2021. And I say this without fear of favor and without fear of contradiction. And I will tell you why I believe this. Because if you recall, in 2021, this man came up with the Green Party. And they were out there on the streets advocating for, the legalization of marijuana and talking about its medicinal purposes and so on and so forth. And the industry that, the industry that we could tap into, just like what this last contributor said. And there was a lot of lip service and tokenism, and you could see it plain as day. So they convened this marijuana committee, and they started having talks and all kinds of things. And then slowly but surely, they did what they always do. Spin top in mud. Tokenism. And Mr. DeCaris has gone silent. And that is why I say he was used. Karma, guys. Karma. Somebody says, Angie, in real life, we need in a St. Lucia, a government and not a government. Don't know what we have. So somebody has made a special request here that I play this song which apparently is a new song for this Calypso season about Wasco. And we all know that Wasco is one of our long-standing problems, because you recall, guys, we went from complaining about the amount of money spent to desilt the dam, to not having water at all and not desilting the dam. Let's hear this, and hope, guys, I listen, I'm being honest with you. I was so disappointed last Calypso season. I really hope that the Calypsonians do better this time, because God knows I've lost respect for a great number of the persons who I thought were great. But let's listen to this special request by one of our frequent callers. This seems to be a very long video, but I'm not gonna let it play for too long, guys. So just the first stanza, the first verse and the chorus, because of course we have a time limit on this show. But let's see what this is all about.
Listen to them talk show. Them men complain nothing about Wasco. Come to back to team your crack we your boss and laugh they treated them Don't like that show, but not till I play me. Who watch it club, who work for my system, and my lap, pass and my leg, once I got them, we push I got them, they fall. But then what he said not said. Still every month we sick be like yes. He got to throw us glass people. Gaga they was so cold as me. Whole management has to go. Why the big turn continue to flow? I don't know. But now we over cash and flow. Over cash and flow. And fly away. The man told over cash and flow.
Oh my God. Well, thank you, Black Pearl, for restoring my faith in Calypso. Because you know, guys, that was pretty good, by the way. I think I love this song. I'm going to be listening for this song at the tents. This is finally, I hear something that restores my faith in Calypsonians. The listener who sent this to me, thank you so much. I will play the entire song after I get off the air because I want to hear the rest. But it does describe exactly what we're going through, doesn't it? Everybody's crying, there's no water, and we're comparing Wasco to Lucilec. That is true. Everything she says is true. So the individual who wanted to call about this song, go ahead and make your contribution now if you're still listening. Don't know if you are. But that is a really nice song. Finally, guys, I have something to look forward to in the tents. I hope other Calypsonians come up with some better. Somebody says not yet, Angie. I have something to look forward to in the tents because yeah, that sounds really nice. Somebody says, well, maybe you did not know, but some of the executive of the Green Party got some money from the government, so this is why everything went down the drain. Okay. So that's what happened. And I think you're right when you say that, because I do recall a statement, a Facebook post by one of the said members, executive members of the Green Party, who was calling on the government to make good on their promises. And the words to the effect of, all of you were coming to my home when you needed support, but now you guys are nowhere to be seen. These were the words that were used in this post. So I'm inclined to believe that the Green Party, sad to say, were infiltrated by the SLP. These guys really made good on their promise, didn't they, guys, in 2021? Remember they said, and they called Tim's show? I recall, I can tell you where I was. I was in the Valley. I had stopped by a shop at the time in T. Larry Shoes. I could never forget that. Listening to Newspin on the radio in my car, and I heard Deputy Prime Minister Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Ernest Hill say on Tim's show that they would take back the country by any means necessary. And immediately Timothy asked him, "What do you mean by that, sir?" And he said, "What I mean is any legal means." Timothy said, "No, that's not what you said. You said by any means necessary." And he said, "No, I mean by any legal means." But did they take the country by legal means? Or did they go all out? All out for their own selfish agenda. Everything has gone topsy-turvy in St. Lucia. Everything is upside down. The entire country is upside down. Look at the difference. Let's put this in perspective. We have a prime minister today who is upset. And you could have clearly seen from the clips I played you earlier this week, this gentleman was angry that members of the press dared question him. A man who promised us accountability, transparency, truth, and integrity. I took this phrase, these 4 words, these 4 pillars from the budget presentation for 2025. That's where I took it. And I built my platform around these precepts because I thought that was a good thing. The Governor General said it in his speech. The Prime Minister mirrored it in his speech. That was what they were going to give the people of St. Lucia. Accountability, transparency, truth, and integrity. And today, the Prime Minister is being asked by reporters about crime. And he is angry. He is angry that the reporters are questioning him. The Prime Minister is angry that talk show hosts like Timothy and myself are discussing or giving people a platform to discuss the level of crime in St. Lucia, to discuss the issues that affect us, to discuss the shortcomings of his administration. He is upset that we are placing him under the microscope. So, Mr. Prime Minister, why did you then take the job? Why didn't you just sit this out? Did you not realize that as the Prime Minister of the country, as the leader of this country, that you were the one that would have to shoulder the blame when things go wrong? And like Mrs. Flood Bowbray said, we are tired of talk. 29 years you have been a minister of parliament, a member of parliament. 29 years you have been a member of government. 29 years you have been the representative of the same constituency. And if you are to be judged by your work in that constituency, you have no business sitting in the Prime Minister's chair. But people forgot to judge you for that. You presented yourself as the Savior, the Messiah. You presented yourself as the one with all the answers, the one with the blueprint for success, the most readied. You said it, not me. I stand by what Mrs. Flood Boubre said this morning. We are tired of talk. We need action. So, Mr. Prime Minister, in your speech, your address to the nation, instead of tackling the situation head on, you spoke about opinion givers and opinion takers. You spoke about sensationalism. And I wondered, is this man for real? How do we sensationalize the facts? Nobody has sensationalized anything. They've told people what happened. In fact, guys, a letter written by Joyce and Omar has been published. And in that letter, she says that she is frustrated with the justice system. She speaks about a female officer who was very insensitive to her plight. And she speaks about the fact that the police granted this man, or the courts granted this man bail, and she could not even get an explanation as to how this could happen. She wrote a letter expressing that she was so frustrated that she was giving up. She was giving up because she was not. She said in the letter that it looks as if things are not going to work out in her favor, and she was giving up. And you're talking about sensationalism and opinion takers and opinion shakers or opinion makers or whatever it is you were saying. Look at the difference. Every day you come to us and say, I don't know what to do. And I ask myself, if I were to tell my boss when I'm assigned a task that is under my purview, I don't know what to do, would I have a job tomorrow? Why is it that the leader of the country can get away with telling citizens that they need to harvest rainwater and still pay WASCO when WASCO is not doing the job that we're paying for, and he still has a job today? Why is it that the leader of the country, the Minister of National Security, can say to us, the people, that he does not know, he wants us, the talk show hosts, he wants the citizens and everybody else to tell him how to deal with crime, his portfolio, and he still has a job today. We haven't fired him. We've allowed him to continue in his post as if it's business as usual. What other job affords an employee those kinds of perks? Only politics, St. Lucia, only politics. Because nowhere else would this suffice. Somebody says, Angie, I'm not in the country, but I am Home Affairs International. I know more things going on in the country. I'm giving you that as a warning. Just now you'll be seeing fish flying in the air and wondering how fish land on soil without water. Well, I think I will see those fish before I see Philip J. Pierre take a stance, a strong stance on crime. So I won't doubt you. Somebody says Lucians need to put down their knees and pray and ask the Lord's forgiveness because they've allowed the wicked men and women to fool them. Sad but true. Somebody says, well, Angie, legal is in the manner of which they took the country. The question of if legal stood is for another show. Somebody says because St. Lucians are too soucy. I don't know what the problem is. Somebody says, how about folks go to their constituency leader and ask those questions of the Prime Minister? Maybe we should, but what answers would we get? What answers would we get? Somebody says it is nonsense to say that a statement such as, system has failed is nonsense. Systems are made up of physical structures, people, and a set of rules, beliefs, principles, etc. If one of the components get to a point where it causes the system or institution to be dysfunctional, it is proper to say the system is broken. It is proper to say the system has failed or even the system is broken. By the way, such expressions are common in discussions even at the international level. Okay, I don't know why that explanation was necessary. Maybe this person was commenting on something else. But the fact of the matter is this, guys. We are at a critical juncture in our history. And we are seeing things happen in St. Lucia that are unprecedented for its time. We're seeing criminals bold enough to stand in public and shoot at police. We're seeing people get out of jail and go in search of persons and kill them. We're seeing a prime minister who wants us, the public, to tell him how to do his job. And we're seeing a public who gave up too much for nothing at all. Somebody says here that should put them on the spot as to their representation. Well, I agree with you, but will we get the answers we are seeking? Somebody says this government thinks that they can lie to get to power and they will be successful in what they do. No way. Another says, I think if I was a journalist, I would be arrested because the things I would ask the Prime Minister. Another person is calling for the police to restore confidence or restore capital punishment That's the only way out at this point. Now, that statement, the Prime Minister was asked that very question. He was asked, will he support the petition going around to restore capital punishment? And the Prime Minister danced all around. And do you know what he did? Instead of answering the question, the Prime Minister tried to divert attention to some lecture on being a republic that was happening somewhere else. And the reporter brought him back to the subject of crime. He was even asked, with all of these murders that we are having, would you consider St. Lucia a safe place? And do you know what the Prime Minister said? He said yes. And he said St. Lucia is safe because while murders are increasing, other crimes are decreasing. Then he said to the reporter, if they would only look at the nature of the gun violence, they would understand that crime is getting better. Now, I don't know if the Prime Minister was standing too close to one of those individuals who love to smoke in public, and so he got contaminated. Or maybe the Prime Minister was simply grasping at straws. I don't know what would prompt the Prime Minister to make such a, I don't want to say crazy, but I want to be diplomatic here. I'll say untoward. I don't know what would prompt the Prime Minister to make such an untoward statement, because, guys, to be honest with you, when I heard the Prime Minister say that, I expected to see attendants from the wellness center standing in the corners of the room, but alas, I didn't see any of them. The nature of the gun violence, it's like he had nothing else to say, and he just said the first thing that popped into his mind. Could you imagine having any other job and making a statement like that? Somebody says they would put you out in response to the question, to the statement that if I were a journalist, the person said if they were a journalist, they would ask too many questions. Another person says, Angie, the way PJB thinks, behaves, or even acts, do you think this man will ever take serious recommendations from Mrs. Sarah Flood Bobre and the opposition? No, I don't. And I'm saying this based on the Prime Minister's past actions. You would recall the Prime Minister was given, he was the one, guys. Let's not forget that part. He was the one that went out and said he needs help. He's taking recommendations from anyone. And when he got the recommendation, when he was asked, well, will you implement it? He said he threw it in the bin. Somebody says, Angie, I told you yesterday, PJP is a PM, plastic maker. Somebody says here, you know the biggest problem, there are criminals in high office, so he prefers to dance around the questions. Another says, you are straight up. Guys, it is 4:15 in the PM, and our time is up here in Hardtalk. You guys always make me stay overtime, and somebody promised me a check in the mail. I'm not saying anything, but that check has not arrived as yet, hint, hint. So I'm going to be closing the floor right now. Guys, it's come to a point where we need to ask our leaders, to put up or shut up. We have a prime minister who, I don't know, we can speculate from now until kingdom come about why he does the things he does. But the truth of the matter is, we will never know. So, despite what the Prime Minister thinks about talk shows attacking him and trying to hurt him, we will continue to discuss the issues that matter because these issues concern us all. But I want you to think about how our problems have changed in St. Lucia between 2016 and 2021. We were worried about having too much, doing too much, developing too quickly, not being ready to face a modern future. And today we have descended less than 6 years. Less than 6 years. We've descended into the dregs. Food for thought, St. Lucia. Get home safe. See you guys back here tomorrow, same time, same place for more Hard Talk. Bye-bye.